What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today we'll be taking a look at the top 8 deck lists from the recent Lorcana HQ constructed online tournament. Lorcana HQ is a Discord server, which will be linked below if you're not in it and you're a Lorcana fan. I strongly recommend you join. With lots of very good players already, lots of people that have put a lot of time and thought into the game. And some that haven't put as much time and thought, but are just naturally very good. And they've been having a tournament exclusively via Tabletop Simulator, and they finished off last night, and they have now released the top 8 deck lists. So today, we're going to take a look through them all, and I'm just going to give my thoughts on them. We've got our winner, who was Walter Yensid, who has their own YouTube channel, and they've released a video talking through their decisions for this list, which I've had a listen to. But yeah, congratulations to them having a 5-0-1 record and coming first, beating Steadfast in the finals. So, and Steadfast is a fantastic content creator and a very good player. So I'm sure that was a great personal achievement for Walter. But let's take a look through the list. So we start off with 4 Sergeant Tibbs. He mentioned that he might go to Minnie Mouse if he was to do it again, or just like for future lists. But he also said that he prefers having the 2-2 so you can trade more efficiently. I agree with this. I run Archimedes, which is just a preference. Do you prefer the owl or the cat? But yeah, I prefer running the Archimedes so you're getting the fair trade. There's an argument to be said that by playing Mini, you can quest more safely, more often, knowing that even if they challenge into you, they won't always be taking you out, but we've also got Prince Eric and Hook from Steel who can take you out. So personally, I much prefer the idea of the one cost being a 2-2, either Tibbs or Archimedes if you're playing Ruby Amethyst. I can't think why I would want the Mini. Like, again, if you know you're going to be running into a lot of Lemon and Lime, there's a degree of sense to it because a lot of them have 1 strength, 1 willpower, so you take them out and then you've still got 2 willpower to play with. So I can see situations where the Mini would be better, but I personally think Tibbs or Archimedes is more consistent. But again, Steadfast ran Minnie Mouses, so you know that's just my thoughts. But clearly, Minnie Mouse is also just fine. But yeah, 4 Sergeant Tibbs I agree with. We've got 2 Befuddle. I run 3 of these. I think 2, but I run 3 because that's in my 70 card deck. So I think 2 is perfectly reasonable, especially because there are a couple of other answers to Lemon and Lime being able to get the Simba off the field and take out the Stitch and similar lines of play against that deck. So yeah, 2 Befuddle sounds good. 4 Gaston. Now in Walter's video, I hope I'm saying it not right, Walter. He mentioned that he learnt the game and put the deck together very quickly, or at least put the deck together very quickly, and he said that he thought that Gaston had Rush, which would make it a even better card than it is, but he didn't realise it was Reckless, and he actually said he would go down to 1 or 2 copies. I think 2 or 3 is the sweet spot for Gaston with Ruby Amethyst. There's a nice response not only to Lemon and Lime, good early card that you can use, but it's also really good against green. So I think 2 or 3 is right for Gaston, but he went with 4, but he said he would lower the count in the future. 1 Ursula's Cauldron, he mentioned that a second copy would be nice. I agree, a second copy would always be nice, but I'm still only running the 1 copy, so good to see. 4 Maleficent is standard, 4 Friends is standard. Went with the 3 Rafiki, which I also agree with. I think Rafiki's really important and just puts in a lot of work, so love to see the 3. Love to see the 4 Jet Sam. I run Jet Sam as well. I'm at the 2 count. Which is low, especially considering I'm running 70 cards. But even when I was running like 60 to 63, I was still only getting in a 2 line. Nice that he's found a 4 line, and he did mention that it wasn't... I see Jet Sam as more just my answer to opposing evasive characters, so I can just deal with them without having to burn my Dragon's Fires and things like that. But he said it was nice just to be able to have something on the board that the opponent couldn't really ignore, and sometimes was a good Dragonfire bait. So yeah, 4 count, interesting. I don't know if I would go to 4, but I definitely plan on trialing this deck list. So maybe when I try it, I will come around to saying, you know, I need more Jet Sam in my life. 4 Dragon's Fire. Most of these top 8 deck lists only ran 3. I only run 3. And he mentioned that he was aware of the fact that he's running 18 Inkables and You know, he's also got the full count of Be Prepared. He's got the 2 Ursula coming up and the 4 Elsa. So he was aware that he was running a lot of Inkables, but I think to quote his video, I think he said, I decided to just YOLO it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Something like that. So fair enough. I mean, the man won. I still think 3 is the right count, but, big up the 4. 4 copies of the Queen is another one that I think 2 is the right count. But we see no mirrors in this deck. So, that being the case, I can understand the 4 a little bit more. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I can't remember, from watching his video, I don't remember him saying anything about if he would run mirror or even mentioning mirror. Maybe he did. I'll have to go back and listen to that. But either way, it'd be interesting to know, if he didn't mention it, it'd be interesting to know why he made that choice. But yeah, if you're not running mirrors, 4 Queen sounds good. 4 Maui, I agree. I think it's such a good card. It's such an important card. It also allows you to be more generous with inking them early, so love that. 4 Aladdin, absolutely compulsory as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the best comeback cards in the game. He did mention that he would like in future decks he would run at least a couple of copies of the Street Rat Aladdin, which I agree with. I think 4 is the right count, but a couple better than none. I think having that potential for turn 5 shift is really good, and then just the extra Lord Denial, so I'd love to see it. 4 Be Prepared, another card that he said, I think a lot of people are running just 3. I've tried to get away with just 3, but I do think 4 is the right count. It's just too important. 2 Ursula, same as my count. I think she's really good. I think she's really, really good. Really, really good. She gets so much value. The Lord Denial, the draw a card, that you make them have to use Dragonfires or Maleficents, and if they haven't got them, she's either sitting there for a turn or they're going to have to use a couple of their characters to challenge into you. She can slow them down. Like, Ursula just does so much, and 3 nice lore pips. So, yeah, I'd like to see the 2 count. 4 Mickey, I think he said he would go down to maybe a 3 count in the future, but it is a really important card to have in the deck. I agree. I'm at 2, but I've fluttered to, between 2 and 3. I think if you can fit in 3, it is nice, because it also allows you to ink them a bit more generously but still have access to them late game. And they are such a, they have to deal with it because it's just doing so much work. So the Dragon's Fires and Maleficents come out on the other side, or their Hades. Again, I'm assuming mirror matches, and the finals was a mirror match. But again, just in general, just Mickey puts on so much pressure. The 4 count of Elsa, which I do think is high. We see none of the baby Elsa. I'm a big advocate for the baby Elsa because it allows you to have something that's on the board. If it's on the board every turn, you can exert one of their characters. Obviously, this big Elsa is great because she's got good stats, she's got good lore pip, and the immediate exert 2, and then they can't even ready up the next turn. That's obviously Elsa is a fantastic card. But once it's down, it's down. So I like having the baby Elsa just as a way to always know that I can exert the opponent, especially because, in my experience, this deck goes behind in lore a lot, and if you're against any sort of aggro with Emerald, especially with Emerald, and they're at sort of 16, 17, 18 lore, sometimes it's just topping a Kuzco or topping a Mad Hatter or something, and if you can't deal with it, then it's a problem. So, yeah, Elsa's really important, and we see none of the baby. But yeah, fair enough. Man YOLO'd it. Man just went, I'm going to have all the powerful cards, even if I have a high uninkable count, and it worked out for him, so fair enough. And 4 Maleficent, I think, is right. I've seen a couple of lists that are going down to a smaller number just because it's such a high cost, but I think 4 Maleficent is way too important. So yeah, massive congratulations to Walter for their first place. Next up, we got the list for Steadfast, who came second. A very notable achievement. Congratulations to them. 510 record. And yes, a few differences from the last list that we looked at. Slightly different mirror. So we've got the 4 Befuddle, nice high count. Steadfast does not want to lose to aggro, and there are other niche uses to Befuddle, but, that's a really big one. And yeah, I think the amount of cards that he's got in this deck, the Gastons, the Rafiki, the 4 Befuddle, the 4 Mini, I think, Lemon and Lime probably feels pretty free to face against. So, yeah, fair enough, 4 Befuddle, and again, even if you don't need them, they're just very clear ink targets. Next up, we've got the 4 count of Minnie Mouse. I just talked about this a minute ago. I'm not sure if I personally think this is better than having either the Archimedes or the Sergeant Tibbs, but Steadfast is an incredible player, a very good deck builder, so I'm sure they've got their reasons why it's more beneficial to do this, and you know, they still came second, so fair enough. So 4 count and a mini, 2 Shield of Virtue, which I like to see. I think Shield just puts in so much work, and sometimes you have to ink it, and again, sometimes it just gets banished from Beast. So 2 count I like. 2 count a Magic Mirror, so we are seeing the mirrors in this list. I think 2 is low. I'd like to see 3, but you know, again, Steadfast knows what they're doing. So 2 count a Mirror. 3 Gaston, I think is fine. Again, I said I think 2 or 3 is the sweet spot. If I was running 4 Befuddle, I'm not sure I'd run the 3. Oh, maybe I would. It's really good against Emerald. So, yeah, fair enough. I don't dispute the 3 Gaston. 2 Ursa's Cauldron. Again, I'm still on the 1, but I would love a second, just so that you see it more. And again, it does allow you to dig a little deeper into your second, into what you're drawing next turn. Or sometimes, quite often with Ursa's Cauldron, it's what you're drawing this turn. Because you normally, you quite often follow it up with Maleficent, cards on the other side, Ursula, although Ursula isn't in this list, but you get my point. We got 3 copies of the baby Elsa in this list, which I like to see for all the reasons I just said a moment ago. Is also only the 3 count of the big one, so that sounds fair to me. We've got 2 copies of Pocket Watch. Again, I think this is such an important card. If you ink it, you want to know that you've got access to another one, and again, just, you know, seeing it more often, because it's a game-changing card. 4 Maleficent, 4 Friends on the other side is standard. Only 2 Rafiki, but I suppose with 4 Befuddle and 3 Gaston, I could get behind that, and that's a little more understandable. I would probably like to, I personally go 3 Rafiki, 3 Befuddle, and then 2 Gaston. But, you know, that's me. But yeah, 2 Rafiki, we love to see it. 4 of the baby Aladdin, respecting the higher chance to shift into the big one turn 5. We do only see 3 of the shift Aladdin. I've made my thoughts on this very clear. All the respect to Steadfast, they are a better player and a better deck builder than me, I have no doubts. But I still think 4 Aladdin is so important. It's one of the best combat cards in the game. So, but yeah, at least 4 of the baby, extra Law Denial, and more odds of shifting on turn 5. We've got 2 of the Keeper of Secrets Jafar. I've also talked about in my own deck profile for Ruby Amethyst. I've talked about how I prefer the other Jafar, the one with Challenger 3, just because, you know, it does feel nice to have Jafar with a nice high strength, which, you know, especially mid to late game, if you've had your mirrors down, like, it's not unreasonable to have a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 card hand towards mid to late game. So that feels good, and the extra law pip is great, but I think it's so important to hit 5 that I just want to know that no matter what point I'm at in the game, my Jafar is going to hit 5. But again, I think this is preference. There are good arguments both sides. We do see the 4 Dragon's Fire from Steadfast. Fair enough, you know, again, in my head, the count's been 3, but, you know, the players that are coming first and second are going 4. So, you know, you got to pay attention to that and at least consider that maybe that's the way to go. 2 copies of the Queen, which I agree with, especially with the mirrors in the deck, I think is right. 4 copies of Maui, fantastic card. The 4 Be Prepared, we just mentioned the only 3 Aladdin. 2 copies of Mickey, which I think is a nice count. 3 Elsa, 4 Maleficent. Yeah, I really like this list. This seems this seems like it would be consistent regularly. Again, if I was going to keep this list, if I was going to go with this card, again, I like 70 cards for reasons I've gone into, but if I was going to stick to this number, I would probably go to the other Jafars, and I'd probably go 3 Befuddle, 3 Rafiki, and I'd want the 4th Aladdin, and I'd probably find that slot from the Dragon's Fire. Other than that, I really, really like this list. And again, you know, Steadfast is a player and deck builder to be respected. So, yeah, congratulations to them and a very, very fine list. Next up, we got Traverse Tavern, France. They went 4-2-0. We got the 4 count of Befuddle. Already talked about this. There are lots of reasons to run this. Very nice. We got the 4 Cruella de Vil. I'm personally not a massive fan of Cruella de Vil, but if you look at the rest of this list, which is just, you know, predominantly like very low costs, you know, just aggro the board, control the board as well as you can. Again, it's just a very good control list with more card draw. So fair enough for Cruella de Vil. The 4 copies of Yzma, who I feel like I probably judged a little too harshly in my review. She probably is a little bit better than I gave her credit. Nice low cost, a little bit of pressure, and just again the ability to manipulate your card draw a little bit. We don't see the Ursa's Cauldron, but I'm sure they had their reasons. 4 copies of Flynn Rider. Yeah, great control card. Nice high law. Keeps them honest. You know, if they ignore it, then you really are just questing and getting an advantage very quickly. And if they do take it out, then, you know, quite often it's not usually a card they want to get. They want to discard. So yeah, Flynn Rider's great. 4 copies of Elsa. We don't see the bigger one, but again, I suppose just respecting the need to, like I said, you know, it's important to, like, especially if you're behind, be able to stop them from just going for game, or even if you're not behind, just important to, like, make sure that you're the one that's questing and getting closer to your win condition, to your win state, to winning the game, and at the same time exerting them and dealing with them with things like, you've got John Silver, we've got Genie in here, we've got Zeus. Like, Zeus probably puts in a lot of work in the mirror, especially with, yeah, Elsa Zeus is a fantastic combination. So I'd like to see the 4 Elsa. 4 Maleficent, 4 Friends is pretty standard. 4 Mother Knows Best, just to continue to help to control the board. Good for slowing down Lemon and Lime. Good for the mirror, very nice. Jasper's a fantastic control card, nice low cost, nice high willpower. So yeah, fantastic. 4 Zeus is incredible. That's probably my worst. That's probably my most I got it wrong when first judging Zeus, because the more when I've started playing with him, he just puts in so much work. So yeah, 4 Zeus, really great for the mirror. We've got 4 Hans. Obviously, this is just standard what Control wants to do. You know, fairly low cost, high lore. Kuzco's one of the best cards in the game. 4 count to Mad Hatter. 2 count to the Genie to be able to remove threats as and when, you know, stop the opponent going for game, and just make sure again that you're the one questing and you're slowing them down. 4 John Silver I really like. Force them to be going into your Cruella de Vil's, your Kuzco's, your Mad Hatters, all the things they don't want to do. And Mother Gothel is obviously fantastic. I don't have much experience with green purple specifically, but in decks that I have built for green, the only thing I would like to see here is a 3rd Mother Gothel. I don't know if any of the rest of these players have done video reviews on, if they're also YouTubers like Walter was, and if they've done reviews. I will probably have a look at some point when I can. But it would be interesting to know what other changes the rest of these players would have made to these lists or would make going forward. But yeah, I'd like to see the 3rd Mother Gothel. And I probably find that slot probably from a Cruella de Vil, to be honest. But hey, a fantastic record from Fran, so congratulations to them. Next up, we got a list from Megabyte, who went 510. Steel Emerald. We've got the 4 Simba. Nice 1 cost, good for drawing and milling through your deck and just, you know, getting closer to the cards that you want to see. So, very nice. We've got only 3 copies of the Duke of Weaselton. You know, obviously nice, low cost, able to trade and slow the opponent down, or just start building your board. I'm guessing that was to make room for something else that they really wanted to play. We've got the 4 copies of Beast Mirror, so nice high cost. We do also see a whole new world, so, you know, either they should always have cards in their hand, really. But even if they haven't got a whole new world, this deck does tend to, you know, play its cards down quickly. So I'm sure they got a lot of value off of these 4 Beast Mirror. Floor Flynn Rider we've talked about. We see 3 of the baby Tinkerbell. I'd like to see the 4th if you're running Big Tink. Just the turn 4 shift can be really game changing, but I'm sure they had their reasons. 4 Cheshire Cat is standard. We've got the 4 Kristoff. Only 3 Mothers Knows Best. I think that's probably the right count. It's probably what I would go with. It's what I've gone with in most of my green decks. 4 Hans. We've got the 3 of the other Hans, the steel one that also does some chip damage when he quests. Yeah, I think that's probably the right way round. You're not doing enough chip in other ways besides Tinkerbell. That I would think I would go the other way round and go 4 of the steel one and 3 of the emerald one. But yeah, like to see that. We've got 4 copies of. Oh, to be fair, we do have 4 copies of this Tinkerbell, which is the evasive one. So yeah, maybe the 3 of the baby makes more sense, but I still think I'd go 4/4, just really maximise those odds. But yeah, they're basically saying, okay, if I don't get the baby Tink and I don't get the turn 4 Tink, I could still get the turn 5 shift Tink. So yeah, I'd love to see that, and I'm sure Evasive put in a lot of work. 4 copies of A Whole New World. You know, like I said, this deck plays down cards quickly. Nice to have, I'm sure. 4 Kuzco, 4 Mad Hatter, 2 Genie seems to be the standard count, 4 Tinkerbell, and again, only 2 Mother Gothel. I'd like to see that at 3. Yeah, I'd probably go 3 Gothel, 4 Baby Tink still. Or would I, though? I mean, where do you make the cuts? Where do you make your cuts for those? I guess I'd probably go down to 3 of the green heart, the Emerald Hans, and probably 3 of the Steel Kristoff, and that's where I'd probably find my fourth baby Steel Tink and my third Mother Gothel. But looks like a great list, and they did very well. So obviously it put in work for them. Next up, we've got Zero the Hero with a Sapphire Ruby list, which every time I've tested Sapphire Ruby, it just feels like I just never have cards in my hand. But we've got 4 Develop Your Brain, pretty standard, nice. You can play it turn 1, nice search to find the pieces that you need. 3 copies of the Baby Aurora, and we see 2 of the Shifted Aurora. I'd like to see that at a higher count. And I already know what card I'd cut for it when we get there. 4 Grandma Tala. I think 3 is fine. You're already ramping a lot, and quite often I find that Grandma Tala just ends up sitting there because they don't challenge into it. Obviously, you can challenge into them and offset the balance yourself, but I don't know. I think 3 is right, but I respect 4. We see 4 Mickey. Another card that I think sometimes 3 can be the right number, but again, you do want to see them early, so I respect 4. We see 2 copies of the Baby Jasmine, and then there's going to be 3 copies of the Shifted one, the one that I rated this a C tier card, but it seemed to have put in some work. And again, you can see the idea because we're running Aurora, we're running the nice high 6 willpower Maleficent. We've got Maui, we've got Hades. Yeah, there are a lot of targets here that can gain benefit from Jasmine, especially if you're offsetting it yourself by challenging into them, taking some chip, and then Jasmining yourself back up to full. I will have to try this and give it a go. But just 2 copies of the baby one. It's a 2 lore pip, so fair enough. Only 2 copies of the baby Aladdin. You know my thoughts on this. I like to see that at a 4 count, but again, better than 0 in my opinion. Again, maybe I was wrong. Maybe most of this list is most of this top 8. These top 8 lists are 4 Dragon's Fire, but we see 4 again. The 2 Aurora we've talked about. The 3 Let It Go. I think is the right count. Yeah, it's a really powerful card. I hate blues. The way that blue also fuels your opponent and their inkwell. I just think they're really shafted by it. But yeah, it's necessary to have that removal. Although you've already got it through Dragon's Fires and stuff, so I don't know. Sometimes, though, there is a need to just put something in the inkwell, because sometimes even banished things have use. So, yeah, 3 Let It Go. We see 4 copies of the 5 cost Maleficent. Again, obviously, they're playing the Jasmine package, so they just want to keep these things healthy and just be questing and sort of like basically racing the game and, building their ink along at the same time and just being able to remove threats from the board. We talked about the 3 Jasmine, 4 Maui, I think is staple in my opinion. 4 Robin Hood, fair enough. 2 Scar. I'm not a fan. I'm really not. Like, there are situations where it's nice because you make it then so that you can go into them without, and your Maleficent can go into their Maleficent and then you're only taking 2 damage, or your Maleficent can go into their Aladdin and you're not taking any damage, or whatever it might be. Takes 5 strength from them, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it has its niche uses. I really don't like the Scar. That would be a double cut for me straight away. But again, they did very well, so I'm sure it put in work for them. But I'd be interested to hear their thoughts about if it put in that much work. We see only 3 copies of the Heroic Outlaw Aladdin. Again, my thoughts on this. 4 Be Prepared I like, 4 Hades looks good, and 4 Maleficent. So yeah, an interesting list. There's definitely some spice there. I definitely will need to try this out with this Jasmine package. But yeah, congratulations to Zero the Hero. Next up, we've got some real spice. I like this list. This looks fun. Leo Shimahan with Sapphire Ruby again. They went 5-1-0. So we've got the 4 Develop Your Brain standard. So this is an item deck. So let's talk first. Let's talk about the things that actually matter. So we've got 4 copies of the Tamatoa and 4 copies of the Maurice, which are our best item characters. And then on top of just 2 Dragon's Fire and 4 Be Prepared, and then we've got the 4 Maleficent, the 4 Hades, like all the standard removal, except a lower count of Dragon's Fire. But we have 3 Sword of Truth, which can banish a villain, and 3 Poisoned Apple, which can exert a character, which in itself is powerful. But if it's a princess, banishes them. So that can get rid of the Bells, the Elsas, the Mulans, which are increasing in popularity, or sometimes just exerting is enough. The Sword of Truth is getting rid of those Ursulas, the Maleficents, the Queens, bunch of stuff. So Yeah, again, along in combination with Tamatar and Maurice, this looks really spicy, really fun. 4 Magic Golden Flower as well makes sense to me. You want lots of items that you can play and again keep you guys healthy. 1 copy of Eye of the Fates I think is the right count. I don't think Eye of the Fates is great, but in this list I can see it occasionally gaining some value. Only 3 Maui. Fair enough. I'm sure that I'm not sure where I'd make the cut for the 4th, because this list looks pretty tight. Maybe Grandma Tala. They went with only one copy of One Jump Ahead as well, which is interesting, and I kind of agree with it. It's nice to see, but you don't want to be drawing too many of your uninkables. And again, a 3 or 4 count, you always end up drawing them at points in the game where you really didn't need it. You needed to see either something inkable or something you could play. So I respect the 1 count. We got 3 Robin Hood. Yep. Fair enough, looks good to me. So yeah, this looks and 2 Scepter of Arendelle, which also fair enough in the item deck. So yeah, this looks a lot of fun. Big congratulations to Leo Shimahan. I faced this on the ladder once, like a few days ago, and I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, that's interesting. But seeing a full list, yeah, looks a lot of fun. I'm definitely gonna have to give this one a try. Next up, we got a list from Just Ink It, who played with Emerald Ruby and went 5-1-0. We see that they didn't utilise many cards from Ruby, but the ones they did, I'm sure, put in a lot of work. We got 4 Duke of Weaselton, 4 Cruella, 4 Flynn. We got 4 LeFou, who I'm sure put in a lot of work just to re-ready characters and keep them safe. 4 Cheshire Cat, 4 Mother Knows Best again, 4 Jasper. We got 4 Pongo, lots of evasive going on here. 4 Hans, 4 Tinkerbell, more evasive. Only 2 copies of Dragon's Fire. We got 3 Beast, which is fair enough. It is Green's Russia. And if you've managed to get some small damage on things up till now, then it's nice to exert everything and be able to challenge into it. So yeah, 3 counter beasts makes sense to me, especially being uninkable. 4 Kuzco, 4 Mad Hatter, only the 3 Maui, and 4 Genie. So Just Ink It was like, no, Genie's too important. I want 4 copies. So yeah, interesting. Looks like an annoying list to go up against. So congratulations to them. And last but not least, we have Joe Ramirez, who went 4-2-0 with Steel Ruby. So we see 3 copies of Fire the Cannons, which is fair enough. We see no hook here, but, you know, Fire the Cannons is still really good against Lemon and Lime. Keeps them honest, nice low cost. You can just make sure that they're not going to be much of a problem, so love to see it. 4 Simba, pretty standard. Nice early start cycling through your deck and working out what getting to the cards you actually want to see. 4 Counter Gaston, nice and high. Again, they don't have access to like Rafiki or Befuddled, so the 4 count makes sense as extra aggression against Lemon and Lime. We've got the 4 Tinkerbell, which I like to see with the just to maximise those odds of getting the turn 4 shifted Tink. 4 copies of Smash, 4 Aladdin, love to see it. We've got 4 Hans, only 2 Dragon's Fire in this list, which is interesting. I wonder if they are committed to that, or if they would have liked, or if they would go a higher count. We see 3 copies of Mulan, which I said is starting to gain a bit of popularity. And as we look towards the latter end of the list, with like the T-Car and the Simba and the Maui and 4 Mickey Mouse, I kind of get it, you know. Like, you do that really late game, it's not unreasonable to assume that you'll be able to banish something. Or like if you're unable to, it's because they dealt with it immediately and recognised it as a threat that they had to. Dragon's Fire or Hades or whatever. But yeah, I can imagine quite a lot you just do get it off, and then your Maui, your Simba, your T-Car, your Mickey Mouse are just questing for even more. So this seems like it like really starts to ramp towards the mid-late game in terms of lore. So 3 count of Mulan, 3 Beast I think is the right count. Really good for getting rid of those mirrors, those Ursa's Cauldrons, those pocket watches. I'm sure it came in use if they face the item deck that we just looked at. 3 Grab Your Sword. I'm just running 2. I think it's really powerful, but I always seem to see it at the wrong time. But yeah, 3 or 4 seems to be the standard number. Only 3 copies of A Whole New World. Again, I'm not saying that I would run 4, but again, it is their card draw. Because I'm not a massive fan of Whole New World. Like, I think it's such a high roll card. But yeah, if it's your only draw, I feel like maybe you'd need 4. But clearly 3 was enough to get them the 4-2-0 record. 4 Tink makes sense. I really like the 2 T-Car. I've been running T-Car in my steel decks for a couple of days now. And yeah, I only run 1 copy. But yeah, you do get value from her, and they do recognise her as a threat. She takes out a lot of characters in the meta with that 5 strength, and yeah, you can either quest for 2 or take something out to gain the 2. And what's funny is sometimes you'll quest for 2 and then they'll attack a challenge into you to get rid of it, being like, oh well, I don't want them gaining like more lore from challenging into me. But you basically end up doing the exact same thing. You quested and then they challenged into you and probably took themselves out. So it's exactly the same as if you challenged into them, took them out and gained the 2 lore pips. So yeah, I really like T-Car. 3 Simba I think is really good. That Challenger 4 means that he takes out nearly everything in the game except Triton in Sapphire. But yeah, that Challenger 4 makes Simba just be able to take out Maleficents and Ursulas and all sorts of little threats. So yeah, I really like that. And again, extra access to Evasive. Really good for going into opposing Mickeys as well. So maybe that's how you justified the 2 Dragon's Fires a little bit more. But 3 copies of Aladdin, I've said my thoughts on this. I think it needs to be 4, but fair enough. Opted to just go 2 Be Prepared, which is really interesting. Really interesting. Another question I'd like to put to them and see if they are still happy with that count. But we've got the 4 Mickey, which again, if you're running Mulan, this makes a lot of sense. And then we've got the 1 copy of the Maui, who I do really like. Again, with the 8 strength, takes out everything. With the 8 willpower, like, short of... There's nothing really that you challenge into that then also takes you out, except Maleficent. No, Maleficent's 7/5. Isn't she? Yeah, so yeah, I quite like Maui with 3 lore pips, and again with Mulan, sometimes that becomes 4. Yeah, really nice. So congratulations to Joe. And that is the top 8 deck list, so congratulations to all those competitors. I'm hoping at some point in the future I can join and get in on one of these tournaments. But yeah, again, massive congratulations to them, and I will definitely be trying out a couple of these lists. Which one would you like to see me do some gameplay videos of the most? But yeah, I'll definitely definitely the item deck. Definitely looks really interesting. That looks like a lot of fun. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, and until next time.